In this tutorial section of the Kiwi Kai, we are going to have be adding in rewards for the Kiwi and be able to score points and be able to go on to the next level. So the point is that we are going to have a signpost at the end of the level that the Kiwi has to get to, but in order for the signpost collision to work, the Kiwi will have to eat all the various worms on the way, and also gets 5 points for eating the worms. So first thing, we need to create a sprite that is a worm. Now this one is a sprite strip, so we have to go into the file create from strip, and we see that it has 8 images in the strip. So there are 8 images in the strip. Its height is 16 pixels and a width of 8 pixels. And if you preview the worm, you can see that the worm is moving, doing a bit of a wiggle, and that will come in handy to notice that for later. So we also create an object for that, and we use the sprite worm. Now, one of the things in the book, it does tell you to increase the depth of this, and you are to increase the depth beyond the depth of the tile layer, so beyond 1,000,000. However, I think there's a glitch in the Mac version of this program, just to let you know, because you can't. I'll just demonstrate. If you try to change this, for example, to 2,000,000 and click OK, it just reverts back to 100,000. So we won't worry about that, even though it's in the book. However, the important thing is that we have to add a create event for the worm, and on this we're going to put on the action to change the sprite. Now the reason we do this is because if we have worms all over and they're doing the little bit of a wiggle and they're all starting at the exact same moment, they'll look like they're moving in unison, which would be a little bit odd. So instead, to create some randomness, we say for each sprite, or for each worm that is created, have it select a random location in the sprite strip to start at. So that's why we say sub-image random 8, and then we slow it down and put it at a speed of 0.5 to make it look a little bit more realistic. The next thing is to test it out by putting some worms in the room. And you can put them up on your different platforms, and then the Kiwi will have to get all of the worms before it can get to the signpost. And well, it can get to the signpost, but the signpost won't be activated until it eats all the worms in the room. It's a good thing always to test, make sure it's working. Okay, and we can see we've got various worms around the room for the Kiwi to get and eat. Unfortunately, the depth thing doesn't work properly as it should, but that's okay. Not a major deal, and the Kiwi's going to have to get to all of those worms before it gets to our signpost, which we'll create in just a bit. All right, the next thing we want to do is we want to make a collision between the Kiwi and the worm. And so what we do, we add an event, and we add a collision event between the Kiwi and the worm. So I've already created that here. So I've got a collision event between my Kiwi and my worm. And what do I want to happen when it collides? Play the sound eat, and You'll need to go back, if you haven't already created it, and create a sound file that's called sound eat. The next important thing is for it to destroy the instance of other. Now this is saying when the Kiwi sprite collides with the worm, it needs to destroy the instance of the worm, or that's the other. Otherwise it'll just still be sitting there. The other thing is we need to set the score, and the Kiwi gets 5 points for every worm that it eats, so we set the score to 5. The important thing here again is relative. That means it will add 5 points every time instead of just doing 5 over and over and over again. So in order to test that out, we can test out our room and see what happens when the Kiwi gets the worms. So you can hear it playing its little eating, slurping noise. And if you see above, the score is going up. Right now it's 20. Hopefully if I get another one, it increases to 25, etc. So that appears to be working. And we need to move on and add the other part so that when the Kiwi eats all of the worms, then it can collide with the signpost and go to the next level if one exists. So we need to create another sprite. This is our sprite signpost. This is just an ordinary sprite. So we just do the load, ordinary load, and load the image, transparency checked, and then we create an object signpost, and this object just has the sprite, and that's all it needs. Now we need to add events and actions for the Kiwi, what happens when it does collide with the signpost. So we need to create a collision event for the Kiwi with the signpost. Now this particular set of actions is actually fairly complex. You see we've got a test variable, so we're doing an if test. We have a block, what shall we do if it's true? Else we have another block, what should we do if it's not true? What happens if it's false? So we have a lot going on in here, and we'll look at it. First of all, we test the instances. So I'll show you where that is. In our control, we've got all of our tests, all of our if tests are located up here. So we've already tested in previous ones. We've done a check if empty. We've had a check if there's a collision. We've had a check if there's an object. And this is check the number of instances. So what we have to do is make sure that there aren't any worms left. So we're testing that instance count. And the object worm instance count has to be equal to 0. So if it's equal to 0, then basically that means the Kiwi's eaten all of the worms, and then we can go on to the next level. So if that's true, we pull out a start block. The Kiwi gets 100 points, so we do a set new score relative. So it's adding 100 points to the score. Just to have a little pause, we add that sleep. So sleep for 1,000 milliseconds or 1 second. And then we do another little test here. This is located in the main 1 tab under the rooms. So we're testing to see if the next room exists. So since we're going to have several levels in this game, every time it collides with a signpost, we're going to see, is there another level? And if so if that room exists, then go to the next room. Else, we must have completed it all. So else, we are going to do another set of actions, and we put those in start and end blocks. So we'll have it show the high score table, and you can put any formatting you want on this, and then restart the game. Notice that if the instance value isn't 0, nothing's going to happen. So we can collide with the signpost and nothing should happen. Now, I've got my test room after my level 1, so I should be able to test to see if this works. So I go into my level 1, and you'll have to add a signpost object somewhere at the end of the room. I've put mine up at the platform. Just you can put it down in the bottom corner if you like. So the first thing when you're testing, you should test what happens if I get to the signpost without getting all the worms. Does it let me go on to the next room? What happens? Nope, nothing happens, and that's good because I haven't eaten all the worms, so it shouldn't let me go to the next room or do anything. So the next thing, I just keep testing. Do the worms disappear? Is the score going up by 5 each time? Yep, this part seems to be working. So make sure that you test incrementally. Alright, now I seem to have all my worms, and this should go on when I collide to the next room, and it has. My test room, I've turned off the block visibility, so the kiwi's walking in air. But I know that part worked because it was able to go on to a next room. So back into my game maker. I'm going to save that. It's all working, and we will stop the video for this portion.